you are just tuning on and you are joining us in this broadcast, we are talking on how serious is human trafficking really with Suzanne Hoff of Strada International and Mr. Jerrol Marten of Comensha. These are anti-trafficking organizations here in the United Land and Europe. All right, welcome back, Suzanne and Jerrol. How do you come in contact with human trafficking victims and what help is available? We've discussed that?
Yes. Well, I think for Comensha, the main contact we have with victims is by the police, the different police. That's when victims come to the police station, or they find the victims when they have raids in the brothels, or in the farmland, or in what we call the cousin. Also, when victims flee from situations where they are being held captive, for instance, in households, we have. If you look at the African situation, we have a lot of times young people who are brought to Holland sometimes as household help. They have no papers. They are brought in sometimes by embassy personnel or family, and promised to go to school, but then are kept at home as a kind of slave. They have no freedom. They have to work day and night to help the family. The same situation happens with young people when they come into the prostitution. They are being promised a lot of big promises, and they end up in the prostitution. So there are quite different ways to end up in these very bad situations.
Yeah, and maybe to add, indeed, what we see all over Europe, that the police is a very important identifier of trafficked persons, because they see the work. What we see now also much more, because the law has changed. It's not only the police, the vice police that checks the brothels, for example, but it's for sure also from a long time already the border control. But we also see that, for example, the labor inspection gets to get a much more important role to check what kind of labor conditions are there, and do people work illegally, and how are they treated. And plus we have to see it's also a lot of family, friends, people who maybe make use of services. This could be a client of prostitution, but it could also be someone who comes maybe in such a house where a person works, maybe comes in contact with that person and then sees there's something wrong. So we also are dependent on the general public.
We try to do awareness for the general public to see the different signals of this abuse. I mean, it can happen next door to you, but if you don't know what to look for, you won't recognize it.
And therefore it's
Have you been given information sections to some of these communities? Migrant community.
Yes, we are now starting.
Because I'm just knowing you.
Okay, but we have...
So you can better use Radio Voice of Nigeria properly.
For instance, there is fair work. They used to be called Blin before. They changed their name last month. Well, Blin, the new fair work. For instance, they work with the victims. They have a client support group of former victims who reach out to victims who have gotten out of this situation. They help them. They tell them from out of their own experience what to do. Together with Fair Work and other organizations, we started 2 years ago, but this year we put more attention on it. Awareness campaign to make everyone aware of what's happening.
Yes, it's very, very important.
To make them see that it's more than in the prostitution. It's even at home, it can be next door, it could be in your work, to be aware of the different situations.
I think it's important to also use the grassroots media for this whole listen to propagate this, because it's inhuman.
And the NGOs, of course, you're fully right, the migrant rights organizations. For example, also in the Netherlands, you have a Filipino migrant rights organization. You have people working specifically with African groups or with African citizens. You have people who work with Thai people. For example, he mentioned already Fair Works. They did projects with Vietnamese and Chinese. They did a project with Polish immigrants. Yes, for sure. People who are in close contact with possible people who are employed here, they are the ones to see the first signals.
And I think very important also the churches.
Yes.
We get a lot of tips and information from the different grassroots churches in the different communities, from the people who visit the churches. As you just told me earlier, they come and they cry on your shoulder and they tell you that they're in a bad situation, but they don't really know how to seek help. A lot of times they are afraid to seek help because they are unknown with the country, with the laws, afraid of police. They are illegal and think that they might be thrown out of the country or into jail. So,
So what steps are being taken right now by governments and the NGOs to bring a stoppage to this trafficking business?
Well, I think to start with, what I just said, the awareness under the general public, but also working together with the NGOs in the countries where the victims come from, to make them aware of what happens to victims when they are over here, to educate people that the other side is not always heaven. It can be hell.
And what you see, not only the Dutch government, but what you see with a lot of European governments, that luckily the issue of human trafficking got much more attention. So they put it higher, it's put much higher on the political agenda. You've seen over the last 10 years a lot of new legislation, a lot of new action plans. Nearly every country has a national coordinator. The Netherlands also has special action plans, special task force to address the issue of human trafficking. They have special groups working together, ministries working together. So that's a positive thing. They take the issue more serious and they take measures. Plus they try to develop better referral among the groups, not only the ones we just talked, but also the healthcare should know, but also police should know what the NGO should do, the NGO should know what the judge does. So people get to know each other better, and so that's what they're doing. And I think, and of course still a lot of it has to be done, but the government is also much more aware of the needs of the trafficked person. They need shelter, they need money, they need to be able to continue their lives, and that's what governments are for, to ensure this.
And I think what's very important also is to inform people in the countries of origin. If they want to leave the country, inform them very good of what they can expect when they go abroad, to make them aware so that they don't fall in hands of traffickers, that you think very well on taking risks. I think that's very important. Keep your eyes open.
I think our local governments have to carry out some sort of campaign, you know, that which will be very open, and everybody must be aware that if you are traveling out, it's at your own risk.
also explain to you what are traffickers. How can you fall in the hand of a trafficker? What kind of situations can happen that can make you become a victim? I mean, a lot of times you don't start as a victim; it happens on the way.
How?
A person can be, for example, told how to reduce the risks. Of course, if you're in a difficult situation in Nigeria or Ukraine, whatsoever, and you're tempted to go to another country, and then you get an offer from your neighbor or maybe from your school or whatsoever, at least what you could do is call an NGO or call a country and check with your embassy, is this a business in fact existing? Is it actually possible to work in the Netherlands legally, and what are the means? Is it indeed possible that I go to the Netherlands without a passport? So I mean, some people don't even know those basic things, so they have to be told. But also there are people who fell prey to trafficking because they not only accept offers, but also maybe into marriage, into other things, so they work as an au pair, and they have to know the real risks. And even if they decide to take the risks, like I know that I'm from a certain country that I have very little possibilities to work in the Netherlands, they have to know, okay, which risk do I take and how to minimize this risk. If at least I bring the right numbers of these and these people, then in case I'm in a very difficult situation, I can maybe call them first before I say yes, or maybe check first. And of course you cannot stop and prevent a lot of the situations, but at least you can try to become as safe as possible. What we, for example, say on our helplines, not only in the Netherlands, but also in Ukraine, Moldova, never give your passport away, because then they have some power over you.
They have power, yeah.
If you have to pay already beforehand, that's not normal. I mean, check your contract, check what's offered, and double check. Don't believe everything that's told to you, but check it with people who might know.
Yes, and always have someone at home who knows where you're going, who can inform for you when you go missing.
Well, we have, for the sake of our time, we are about to round up now. But what more do you think can be done by all stakeholders to reduce or stop this problem? Just in a minute.
I think Jerrol already partly answered this with the last question, what should be done more. But what I'm thinking is that there is a lot of good legislation, there are a lot of good action plans, and I think it's time that governments but also other actors start to implement it much better. So if there's a very good law and if people have certain rights, then at least all the policemen in this country should know, and also in the European Union but also above. People should also check much better the effects certain legislation has, because sometimes anti-trafficking laws or action plans actually harm the rights of migrants. Sometimes people are denied access to a border just because they might be a trafficked person. We are really opposing this because we feel everyone has the right to migrate, to live somewhere else.
Okay.
And we feel that the government should do much more to put the issue on the agenda, to ensure there is sufficient support for shelters and social support. And what Jerrol also mentioned, I think the awareness raising should get much more attention, because we have to do it all together. We have to have the general public involved.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think also what's very important is that you have compassion with each other, and don't force your neighbor into this situation. That's what happens quite a lot of time.
It's true. Well, thank you so much. Any last remark before we zoom off?
Well, I would say have a good look at our internet awareness campaign, and it will tell you the different signals to watch out for.
Okay.
I also would say stay in contact, and even if you're just a general public person, let's say, if you have some signals, if you have some doubts about certain situations, call us or check further or offer your help to a person.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Jerrol.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.